Everybody, before we start, you notice the names behind me on the screen there, the names of the victims in both Atlanta and Denver over the last 2 weeks in the mass shootings that we have suffered. And I think it's, first of all, important to reference their names. These are human beings. These are people who have been lost, and the thought of the mothers and fathers and sisters, brothers, daughters, and sons who are grieving right now with the loss of the people behind me is just devastating, particularly in the wake of what is just a common occurrence in our country, and an inability of our representatives in government of doing anything about it. For me personally, I follow this issue closely. We have a congressman from here in Napa, Mike Thompson, who was behind the legislation, the bill HR 8, which is the background check that has been passed by the House now 2 years in a row. That basically 85 to 90% of all Americans support, because the bill is based on background checks and just getting people to have to pass a background check before they're able to purchase a gun. The gun in Atlanta was bought that day without a background check. 8 people died as a result. So this bill was passed by the House. It hasn't even been presented in the Senate. It wasn't last year because of the makeup of the Senate. I imagine it will be presented to the Senate, this term. But I am just sort of at a loss for words at this point. We can't just sit here and accept that we're going to allow our fellow citizens to just mow each other down with weapons of war. It's the most disgusting thing that exists within our country. It's ridiculous. It's disgusting. It's devastating. There's so many people out there who are suffering. We have to do something about it. Our Senate has to do something about it. And most importantly, we need to acknowledge the people who are suffering today and try to keep there from being future victims and suffering family members in the future. So with that said, I guess we can move on to tonight's game. I know this is an awkward transition, but we felt it was very important to talk about this today.
Steve, to go back to the names, why did the organization want to make sure? It's very striking to have that behind you, to have the list of people who were murdered. How much discussion was there within the organization to do something like this?
Well, I mean, the reason to do it is to remind people these are human beings. It's important to humanize the victims and not just count them. Too often you pick up a story and you read and you just read there were 8 victims or there were 10 victims or whatever the number is. When you see faces, when you see names, it personalizes it, and you put it together and you think about how many people are suffering, how many, as I said, family members and friends, not to mention, of course, how many lives were cut short, how many dreams were shattered. If we don't humanize it, it continues to be a statistic, and it makes it much easier for the idiots out there to say, this is the price of freedom, in terms of owning guns, this is the price of freedom. That's possibly the dumbest expression I've ever heard in my life. Can you imagine the price of freedom being a bunch of innocent people being mowed down by a weapon of war? But no, that's the price of freedom. That's why we're Americans. What are we even talking about? we have to protect each other, and the best way to do that is to humanize the victims and get people to understand this could be, Ted Cruz, this could be your family, this could be your friend, this could be somebody very close to you. If it happened, would you not want there to be something in place where there was a background check? It's just mind-boggling to me that we can just continue to cater to the very small minority in this country. Again, 90% of Americans, regardless of political affiliation, support background checks. We go through driver's school and driver's safety, and we have to, apply for a license to drive a car. Nothing like that with a gun. We can just show up to Walmart and buy an AR-15 and murder 10 people, and that's the price of freedom. That's really, we're going to keep saying that. So a lot of us are just angry. I think we all are in this organization. We're just sick and tired of it. A couple of years ago, we had moments of silence every month for mass shooting victims. And obviously the mass shooting victims are, those are our stories. Those are the ones that are prominent, but there's gun violence and homicides and gun deaths, gun accidents in this country every day. And, we have to address it. We can't just turn it into a political issue and romanticize this idea that Americans get to have guns and it's a God-given right. I mean, what does that even mean? Did guns exist when God created the earth? I wasn't aware of that. I mean, so we're just, I think everybody's sick and tired of the rhetoric that's out there, particularly amongst the Republican senators who refuse to even vote on H.R. 8. We're not being represented. 90% of us want this in this country. We are not being represented by our leaders.
Every time one of these mass murders happen, do you think of the anguish that your family experienced? Of course. That's why this issue is very near and dear to my heart, because my family had to deal with the loss of my dad and my mom's husband, and we've had to deal with the aftermath ever since, and we don't want other people to have to deal with what we've dealt with, and yet people, over 100 people a day in this country die from a gun, whether it's an accident or a homicide, suicide. So we have to address it, and I think everybody is just so fed up. And, I felt like we had pretty good momentum, in the last couple of years with the March for Our Lives organization, the younger generation really taking on this mantle, and they've done an amazing job. There's so many great groups out there, whether it's the Gifford Center, the Brady Group, Sandy Hook, the Sandy Hook Promise, and many others doing such great work. And so I think the momentum is going in the right direction, but we have to address this. It's there's an Onion headline that they tweet after every mass shooting. It says, "No way to stop this," says country that has more mass shootings than any country on earth, or says the only country that actually suffers from these mass shootings. And it's true. It's like we're living in this bizarre denial where people just get slaughtered, and we just get stuck in this political battle that 90% of our country doesn't even agree with or believe in. So the insanity's got to stop.
Hi, Steve. Jesus from San Jose State University. I was going to ask, what are the conversations like in the locker room? Do players come up to you and start a conversation, or how does it come up in the locker room? What are the players' reactions?
Well, it just depends on the issue and what's happening, and we occasionally have conversations about political issues or world events, and sometimes we don't. Sometimes we're just locked into our work, and it just sort of depends on which way the wind is blowing that day.
Hi, Steve. It's Maria Vidal for Top Deportes in Latin America. Hope you're okay. What is the key for this team to stay mentally and emotionally motivated and resilient when facing so much adversity, not just as a team, but when looking at the world around us?
Well, we have so much to play for. We're right in the thick of the playoff race, and this is what these guys do for a living. They love the game. They're all working hard to advance their careers and take care of their families, and they enjoy it. They enjoy playing the game. So really, the focus is to come in and get better every day. And when you get better and you play well and you win a game, it's exhilarating, and that's the feeling that we are all after. And then, as it relates to the world these days, whether it's COVID or mass shootings, this is our refuge to come to the gym and to come to the arena and play basketball. It's kind of our favorite thing to do. So we're lucky to be able to do this.